I'm Katie from What Katie Did, and today I'm going to talk about the Whirlpool bra, or our version of the Whirlpool bra. And this video is going to be kind of divided into two, and the first little bit is going to be basically telling you about our version of the Whirlpool bra and telling you about how great it is and the bye. And the second half will be a little bit about the history of the Whirlpool bra, because I've been doing some research and the story behind it is really quite fascinating. So firstly, what is a Whirlpool bra? A Whirlpool bra is a bra where you have the circle stitching, and the circle stitching actually goes in a spiral, so it actually makes like a whirlpool, and I have a version here. This is actually a very early version of the Whirlpool bra. This one actually dates back to the late 50s, but this style was in production since the late 40s. And the stitch would be done on a machine that went in a whirlpool shape, and it went all the way through right to the very edge of the cup. Now if you look at a bullet bra, the bullet bra, the stitching is actually done in circles. So it's a series of circles, and you generally have a bit of a gap at the top, at the front and at the tip, and you also have a gap around the edge of the cup. So that's the main difference. The bullet bra does give a pointier shape, and the stitches go in circle and they don't cover the whole cup. The Whirlpool, it gives a softer shape, and the spiral stitching goes all the way right to the very points and all the way right to the very edge of the cup. First up, with our Whirlpool inspired bra, we have cheated, and this is because we have done the circles, we haven't done the spirals. So that is, it's not 100% a Whirlpool bra, but apart from us cheating slightly with the stitching, it is pretty authentic. As you can see, the stitching goes all the way to the end of the cup, and it does give a softer shape than the bullet bra. So it is more of a Whirlpool than a bullet bra, most definitely. We introduced this bra a couple of years ago in black, and it was called a Bazaar bra, and now we're doing it in this peach tone, and this peach tone has been a bit of a trauma getting it done. And first of all, I'll grab the fabric. This is a stretch satin, and I wanted to do something different to our normal ranges, and the stretch satin just gives us a bit more manoeuvrability with design, with the bottoms in particular. So I had this stretch satin, and I kept on asking our factory to try and get hold of it, and the supplier kept on being out of stock, and this went on for a couple of years, and eventually they had it in stock and they ordered it and they sent it through to me. And I had a problem because it doesn't actually go with our peach. So I was working from a tiny swatch, and until you get a big swath of it, you can't really tell how the trims will go. And as you can see, our peach shoulder straps, our peach elastics, don't go with it at all. And that was the first issue. Luckily, our factory in India has access to its own dye house. But whatever they did, they couldn't get the elastics to match this fabric, and even if it being like 10% out, you could really tell the difference, and it just jarred. And they had the fabric and we didn't have the elastics, and the only thing I could come up with was to do it with a black trim. So that's what we did, and as soon as we did the black trim, it looked absolutely amazing. The next issue is that this vintage peach, and I do have a pair of peach knickers here, it's actually very much closer to the 1950s, 1940s vintage peach that lingerie used to be made in. So that's, you know, a vintage pair of 1950s French knickers, and this is a stretch peach satin, and they go really well together. Unfortunately, for the last 15-20 years, we've been using this peach, which is completely different to the peach satin. As I said, the elastics don't match. And when you put the black stitch going, when you do it with the black stitching, it changes the look of it again. So this doesn't actually look peach. When you've got the stitching on, to begin with, I was calling it rose gold. And we had a big discussion about whether we should call it rose gold at our office. And in the end, we came up with the name blush. That is the most descriptive name we could come up with. So although officially it is peach, when it's got the stitching, it kind of looks more of a pinky peach, kind of a blushy rose gold. So it looks really, really nice, but it's a far removed from the plain peach that I was trying to come up with to begin with. The story behind the Whirlpool bra is very intriguing. It was developed by Hollywood Maxwell, and the Hollywood Maxwell brand had been going for a couple of decades before the Whirlpool bra really took off. I was going through my archives trying to find you a Hollywood Maxwell Whirlpool bra, and I knew I had some in my collection, and Terry and myself are both going through all my collection at the moment, and we're putting it neatly in boxes, and I can't wait to show you because we've got probably about a third of the way through and it all looks totally neat and in semi-clear shoe boxes, and I'll be able to find everything in future. But at the moment, I found this one, and to begin with, I thought this was I could tell it wasn't a late 40s Whirlpool bra, but it's the same shape, and I was totally intrigued by it. And it's actually by Hollywood Vassarette, and I knew it dated later, so I thought I'd delve into that later. But this is what the original Hollywood Maxwell Whirlpool bras used to look like. By the 50s, things had moved on a little, and they were doing major things. They did a lot of Marilyn Monroe's bras, which I can't show you because of photography copyright, but they're absolutely amazing. Kind of very, very nude illusion. And also they did the overwire, which this bra is an amazing style. I've spoken about overwires before. When it comes to modern reproductions, they're just so hard to make. And we find that with bigger cup sizes, it's even harder to fit. So they're kind of off limits to us at the moment. Of course, back in the 50s, fit wasn't so critical. People didn't expect the fit that we expect today. So although this fits me really well for larger cup size, it wouldn't. But this is the kind of thing Hollywood Maxwell were doing in the mid-50s, and just super cute and amazingly finished inside. It's got the satin inside and the satin lining of the bow, and it's just beautiful. Hollywood Maxwell was such a big brand that when Disneyland opened in the mid-50s, they actually had a working shop in Main Street in Disneyland. And for the first couple of years in Disneyland, they had Main Street was actually working shops. And of course, when you go now, it is working shops, but it's just souvenirs of Disneyland. Whereas back then, they actually invited well-known American brands to have shop fronts and actual working shops. And they had Hollywood Vassarette. They had a shop there. It only lasted a year, and most of the shops didn't last very long. But at that time, they were a big enough brand to be one of the big, one of the 50 big brands in America that were invited to be in Disneyland. And this is where the story gets interesting, because this bra here, this was made by Hollywood Vassarette. Vassarette Lingerie were part of Mungsingwear, which was a huge American brand. And in 1958, they became Hollywood Vassarette, and they actually teamed up. I'm just referring to my notes now. Hollywood Maxwell combined with Vassarette to become Hollywood Vassarette in 1958. So this bra is post 1958. But because this is when Hollywood Maxwell and Vassarette became one, as it were, this is why the pattern is basically the same as a Hollywood Maxwell bra of the late 40s. Hollywood Maxwell merged with Vassarette to become Hollywood Vassarette, and Hollywood Maxwell, that iconic name which dressed so many stars of the 50s, became part of the lingerie history books. If you do have any questions about what Katie did or our lingerie ranges, please get in touch. In the meantime, please take care, and I'll catch up with you soon.